Sarah International, and San Jose State University. Our main focus is to provide top-notch programs to outstanding local and international students. So in order to deliver the best possible services, we have a hybrid learning platform. It incorporates, education as well as service. We have mostly online programs now with the pandemic, but in normal times, offline as well. Synchronous and asynchronous. So, working around student schedules quite well. Also using theory and putting it into practice. So how we do this is we get the top instructors to give our students guidance and teach them great things. We have endorsement from leading universities. That's how we build a competitive advantage and enjoy continuous improvement. And all of this is how we are upgrading education. Okay, so the Future Leader Academy is under the umbrella of future planning. So we've had quite a few different universities where our students have been admitted. And now I would like to introduce our speaker today, Mr. Matthew Brown, PhD. Okay, so he has 25 years of teaching and consulting experience, okay, quite a long time. Also 12 years of experience as an outward bound instructor. Okay, so that's some wilderness education. Probably have a lot of good survival skills, right? Right, Professor Matt? He has his PhD in organizational behavior from the University of Michigan Ross School of Business. He's done a lot of really amazing things in his long career. He's coached senior executives in teams at companies like American Electric Power, DTE Energy, the University of Colorado, NASA Ames Research, the Fiat Chrysler Corporation, the University of the Virgin Islands, and Fielding Graduate University. Okay, so wow, NASA and Chrysler. Okay, and then he also served as the University of Michigan William Davidson Institute Program Associate. So he spent some time in Uzbekistan and also led faculty for the Goldman Sachs 10,000 Women Entrepreneurship Program in Rwanda. So wow, quite an impressive resume.
Thank you.
And now here's what we are going to discuss today. First, we will give you guys a recap of FLA Module 1. So that would be the first in the series of the Future Leader Academy. We'll also give you guys some example activities. Then Dr. Matt will discuss what is individual leadership, and then he'll explain how students can realistically use leadership skills. And then towards the end, we'll give you guys an introduction of the next FLA module, the Advanced Individual Leadership Series. Okay, so Dr. Matt, what was the first FLA module like?
Well, it was an unheralded success. It was a very interesting, interesting process as we tried to figure out how to get the students to help us build the program. This is a good slide that illustrates the actual leadership model that this helped us create. And it's really quite amazing. I've sent this out to about 150 people and gotten all kinds of really good feedback and really amazing supportive messages. And if you take a look at it, it's basically just a cycle of like 6 different kind of characteristics. And it starts with well-being at the top. So what we did is we created a well-being curriculum for all the students, and they got to customize it themselves. And we talked about things that they could do once they start to work on their own well-being. One of the reasons I chose this is because I read a study last year. About 86% of students in college in the United States have some experience with a mental illness, which means a depression.
Okay, perhaps we're having a few technical difficulties. So let me explain a little bit while, Matt, is everything okay? Okay, if not, I will explain a little bit more. So this is our FLA leadership model. Okay, so we developed this with the students actually. So basically in the first workshop, we talked a lot about well-being, okay? Because the most important thing if you're going to be a leader is to, is to be good in yourself. Then, after that, we talked more about positive attractors and.
Sorry.
Oh.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I'm sorry about that. I have a hotspot, and every once in a while it fails on me. So I apologize for the technical error, and I'll try to keep an eye on it. So you were talking about positive attractors, and then we talked about courageous following. What does that mean to be a courageous follower? Because learning to be a good follower is a natural sort of prelude to being a good leader. Then we talked about learning and assertiveness, and then finally wound up what we call service learning or service leadership. And then it sort of brings it full circle. So we paid attention early on to what a lot of these students did, and we built a leadership model that fit their particular interests. And so this was sort of the final outcome, which is really powerful, and it's very unique. There's nothing like this anywhere in the United States that I know of.
Absolutely, a pretty exciting experience for the students to be a part of designing this.
And I'll tell you what, we wrote an article, a journal article about this, and all of the students are co-authors of the article, and we'll show you that in a little bit.
Yes, we will. First, I think we can talk about some of the activities in the first FLA module, which was discovering the leader in you. So we're going to go through a few of these different areas. Maybe you guys are wondering, how exactly would you learn leadership? Well, these are some of the activities. So sometimes through assessments and surveys, experiential activities. We had quite a few writing assignments to really reflect on everything we were learning. Being a leader is all about, public speaking and getting out there and connecting with others. It's very people focused. So we had students do interviews and connect with others in their network and also expand their network. And also learn how to manage their personal website so that they can get some good college admissions offers. And also, perhaps for an internship or job in the future. That can all be very helpful. So let's take a look. So first, we did the happiness.
Yeah, we did a happiness index, which really is kind of just a pulse read. It really is the simplest and the first kind of, it's designed to be an introduction to surveying. And it just gives them a quick read on their sort of happiness. And then what we do is we take them through a series of a little bit more elaborate assessments and surveys. And that gives them a flavor for how surveys work, but it also tells them, where their strengths are and where their areas that need improvement. So it gives them kind of a leadership potential assessment early on. And we use that information through the, through the workshop series. So it's a really good way to start out. And it's fun. It's kind of fun.
Certainly, very hands-on, and you can learn a lot about yourself. Okay, and then another example of an activity is the 3 good things activity.
This is an exercise that I actually do myself, and it's like every day I actually try to think of 3 good things. I was reading an article by, I wanted to say Adam Grant at the University of Pennsylvania. He was talking about saying, positive things to yourself, sort of positive regard. When you talk to yourself, and we all do, saying good things rather than saying, negative things or critical things or things like, and this really is just a fun practice early on, once again, an exercise where you just state good things that are happening to you. And believe it or not, what the power of this is just sharing this amongst the students. They generate this themselves and they share the good things. It's amazing what this can do to just change their sort of disposition. But it's also a good activity. It shows that leaders are really people that advocate for the positive. Okay.
Certainly.
And then at the bottom, there was this little gullibility test, which is kind of fun to take, how gullible you are. If you don't know what gullibility means, it's like, how likely are you to believe in kind of phony things, which is a really important skill as well.
Certainly. That was a fun assessment to take.
Yeah, it was.
That's a good one.
Yes.
Okay, and now an experiential activity. So
this is oh, excuse me, I'm sorry. This is an activity where they will put together as a group what is called a well-being calendar. And a well-being calendar is a pretty common device. And what it is basically every day you write down something that you're doing that will contribute in a positive way to your well-being. The wonderful thing about studying well-being and working on improving your well-being is that if you do it for yourself, you're likely 90% likely to do it for other people as well. So this is a really powerful group activity and a lot of fun as well. And then, we try to encourage the students to actually use their calendar in the month that follows, the first workshop. Now, this is the module 1, and module 2 will be slightly different, but we will actually repeat module 1 again very soon as well.
Certainly. And then we also had a lot of discussions in that first module, including this one, how to think from different perspectives. So could you explain a little bit more about this?
Well, this is the famous Macarthur's Universal Corrective Map. Notice he named it Corrective Map of the World. It's a very interesting kind of visual because it really changes the way we look at the entire Earth. Some people say it looks like there's a lot more water, but it also just it indicates how we reference particular visuals and how we look at the top as being the dominant and the bottom being sort of like, subordinate. And this flips that around. And if you think about if the center is the most important, what is the most important continent in the Earth in this map? Calla?
Australia.
Australia, yeah. And who would know, right? Australia. So basically what this is, it prompts a discussion about, sometimes you have to flip the world around to get a different view of things. And we encourage the students to have a discussion about what this means and how they respond to, their viewing things like this. It's a really good device. It starts a really interesting conversation.
Absolutely. Everyone was very
surprised. Have to learn how to think differently, right? And then you need to act and think differently.
Absolutely. That's what leadership is all about.
Sure.
Okay, and then we have a lot of different, leadership lectures and instruction on leading in different theories, and also some key terms related to leadership, like helping and serving.
Sorry, this is one of the ones I'm really excited about. I really love this particular talk because a lot of people don't really think about the difference between helping and serving, and the biggest part of that is when you're a servant leader, you are basically dedicated to leveling the playing field so that there isn't this sort of imbalance between authority and power and that kind of thing. So servant leadership is a really powerful kind of idea, and we sort of owe the idea to this man named Robert Greenleaf, who worked at AT&T for about 60 years. And he passed away a few years ago, but he was a real driving force of this particular idea. And so we talked to them about how you want to serve things that are greater than yourself. Leaders are people that, take initiative and advocate for things that are, community-based. They're not selfish. They're more giving to the collective kind of interests around them.
Sure.
We're pouring through this pretty fast, but hopefully our audience will get a flavor for it. Okay.
Certainly, I guess this is more of an introduction. This is why it's important to take the course to really understand these concepts, right?
Yeah, it's exactly. It takes us 6 weeks to explain all this and have fun with it. This is a slide because one of the most important outcomes from this series is that the students create their own website. And we give them a real powerful toolbox in technical design skills. So they design their own website and they put their assignments, we call this their leadership portfolio. And the things like, we talked about before, the writing assignments, the assessments, they put all those things on their website so they can showcase their work in the future to people like admissions counselors or to possible internship, managers or whatever opportunities they're looking to do. They have a sort of one-stop shop showcase that they put together, and we help them build that. It's a really great thing. It's maybe the best thing in the whole curriculum is helping them design and build their own website.
Well, there's a lot of good stuff, but this is definitely the signature thing just because it kind of synthesizes everything together and it allows students to really showcase what they learned. And, it's to learn for the sake of learning, but it's good to be able to show others what you've learned as well and get something really tangible from that, like, more favor with admissions officers or future employers.
Absolutely. This is a great example. One of our previous students, Nina Lee, wrote a short essay on assertiveness because she identified in one of her assessments, she decided that, or discovered that assertiveness was like something really important that she needed to work on. And she explained to us in detail why she thought it was important. And I said, well, write an essay about this and put this, right on your, maybe even on the front page of your website. So this is where gives you an example of what the website page looks like. This also went in to the article that I'll show you later as one of the examples. Very powerful to have in their own words, what they talk about, what's important in being a leader.
Absolutely. It really helps students reflect on what they're learning and just really showcase everything.
Yeah. They can't get this anywhere else. I mean, there's no schools that do this kind of thing. This is a sort of a MBA level kind of project that we're showing them. We're giving them a sneak preview of college, of the best of what colleges do in teaching leadership and organizational behavior, things like that.
Absolutely. Okay. I'm sure many of our students love the challenge. So how do we organize things to put on the portfolio?
This is just a list of the assignments from one particular workshop. So this would be a portfolio assignments workshop 1. There's explaining the survey results from the assessments, the well-being calendar, which we showed you before. There's this thing where they look at videos. It might be a TED talk online. It might be just some kind of site that has a special kind of activity. There may be a story that they write up. There's the woodcarver story. That's a really important leadership story. The gratitude visit, which we'll explain in detail a little bit later, and maybe an advanced reading. Now this advanced reading is basically a freshman level, college level reading. And I don't expect them usually to read the actual version. I create an annotated version of whatever reading I put out there. And it could be something from sort of basic philosophy, both Western and Eastern kinds of philosophy, Lao Tzu, or it could be something by, John Stuart Mill in this case. And then, even writing a poem. If I were a leader today and I give them an example of some kind of creative activity that they can do and explore their own creativity. So there's a lot of different facets to this, a lot of different interesting assignments, and they can choose from what I would call an opportunity menu.
Absolutely, lots of different things to do. Well, and then what about like actually creating the website and creating a brand? How do we do that?
Well, in the business school, this is funny to me because everybody now is creating their own brand. So this is sort of, don't believe the hype too much, but this is a very important idea that you want to sort of build your brand means kind of like, creating your unique profile, so you stand out from other people, but also, highlighting some of your interests and your skills and talents. And in some ways, the homework is designed as a lot of different possibilities, almost like a kind of a sushi bar of different activities that they can choose and then, build their brand on their website. And we help them. That's part of the design thinking that we teach them is, there's the website allows you to learn something about design, how to advertise, strategy, helps strengthen your sense of identity. They create their own logo so they can market themselves. And it's a very interesting kind of process. And we're still doing it. One of the things we do is we follow up with the website build, and the Module 1 students from before are still doing that. And I remind them every week to put something on their websites. So it's a lot of fun. It's really great. I really enjoy that part of it.
For sure. I think the students enjoyed this a lot as well. And then related to that, design thinking, how to make the website look good.
Yeah, design thinking is a really important skill. When I think about what I teach in organizational behavior, design thinking over the last 4 or 5 years has really taken over our curriculum. I think a lot of that has to do with the platforms and the online, work that we do. They're trying to make, visuals appealing, and it's very similar to the idea in advertising of, they say, cut through the noise. The design thinking helps us to really cut through the noise and establish, our own brand, our own design principles, our own ideas. So I just create this 4 C's idea for them. And when they're putting together their website, we want the graphics to be cool, the cells and blocks to be organized and be balanced, using good color, because a lot of pastel colors they're not visually appealing. And ultimately you want your website pages to be clear and clean. So people, when they visit them, they know how to navigate, and they look at it. This is just a sample of kind of a very nice, attractive visual, but they're going to have their own unique kind of flavor.
Certainly.
And then, what we typically, and this is sort of like my little personal passion. If you ever follow me on LinkedIn, you'll see that I put a lot of philosophy. I majored in philosophy.
Yes, you do.
Because it was one of my majors as an undergrad, and I always think, well, I got to use it. I spent all this time, and I have this incredible library that I spent most of my life reading when I wasn't consulting in business. But I found that, studying Western and Eastern philosophy has been an incredible advantage, and just a great, source of resources for me. And it's interesting. It's still, and I sort of plug a lot of those kinds of things in. We've gotten away from a lot of that in education, but I'm not a traditionalist in the sense that I think it's the most important thing you learn, but there's still a tremendous historical legacy in the sort of philosophical canon that, leadership depends on in some ways. And you can help, I can help them source out where certain leadership ideas actually come from.
Certainly. Well, I heard that a lot of business people like to read like The Art of War and things like that. So it's great that we're introducing this to
we want to try to get a little bit beyond that. Yeah, The Art of War is a pretty popular thing. I go back to things like Plato, believe it or not. And, it's sometimes difficult for students to understand some of the, philosophical treatise or narratives, but, I try to make them simple. I annotate them, and I try to, couch them in things that they can understand.
Sure. Well, I remember some of the readings that you had. It was Think Like an Athenian. What was the Macedonian one?
The Macedonian one was, I can't remember. I think Like an Athenian was something to do with like critical thinking or something, asking questions. I had one for Macedonians, for Spartans. I create these activities sort of out of thin air, basically. But a lot of students tell me they're really fun. and they really are instructive. They're sort of my own inventions, but yeah, they really like those. Even you guys told me you really like doing them, so that was really quite amazing. Those are the kinds of really good things. Those little, short essays they write out of those workshop activities are really good contributions to their portfolios, because and I know when they get to writing their essays for admission to big schools, if you can reference, history, the classics, something like that, you're going to be heads and tails above, the other applicants. And we help each one of them sort of, discover their own interests in the sort of classic text.
Certainly, it never hurts to be well read and well informed. And I think that we help bring some of those things that students really should know into this course.
Yeah.
Even though this isn't directly about history or philosophy, I think it does
It stimulates ideas, and I really want them to think about how that contributes to leadership practice. So it's really about, like, why is a gratitude visit so important? Well, it talks about, finding somebody you really care about and tell them exactly why they're so important to you. Because when you're a leader, you need to value people. You need to learn how to talk about the value that they bring to whatever efforts that you're involved in. So teaching students to, value, and some of the students told me that gratitude visit was one of the more powerful emotional type investments that they made in the whole program. Very simple, but, we just don't think about doing it, in a sort of formal sense.
Absolutely. Sometimes the most simple things can be the most meaningful at the same time. But I have a slide for the gratitude visit in just a little bit, so we can talk about that later.
Okay.
Okay, so you mentioned the journal article before, and actually the students are co-authors, and I am too. Right after you did. That's very exciting.
This is actually the real draft that just went out. In fact, it's being peer reviewed right as we speak, and a proof is actually being put together. So we had myself, Kala, your second author, and then we have, William, who's also one of the instructors, and then we have 5 students who contributed to the, the building of this first thing. And I plan to have an article from every series. So if you're interested in your student becoming a published author by the time before they're in high school, this is one of the best things I can do for them, is help them learn about the publishing process. And they contribute a major part of this, so I felt it was very important for them to, for me to acknowledge their contributions and for them to experience this. So they get a copy of this. I talk to them about the process as after the series ends, and they'll see this actual in print, and they'll all get a copy of the proof. So this is a really, really amazing thing for them to be part of. It's a pretty good looking draft too, I think. Has a nice format. So I'm pretty good at this. This is something, and we had a couple of editors who were actually very excited to to publish this. So this is going to be in an A1 journal. It's really amazing. They're taking this as a kind of almost like a research article. So it's going to be published in, I can't remember exactly the name of it, the International Journal of Business and Management or something. It's like way beyond what business education maybe or something like that. But it's sort of way beyond what I expected. So this is wonderful. This is a very powerful kind of thing, and I'm really proud of the students for helping us put this together. It was really easy for me to write this, with them. So.
Yeah, absolutely, a lot of great contributions from them. It's pretty remarkable because some of our students are even only in 9th grade in high school, and now they're going to be published authors and graders in high school. What other 9th grader in high school is a published author for a famous business journal? I mean, basically no one. So this is a really special opportunity.
I didn't publish anything till I was in my mid-30s, and I was almost a PhD. So yeah, they'll be way ahead of the game, I guess, and if they get a good experience out of this, and they do something on their own, that would be so wonderful to hear, 5-10 years from now that they, wrote an article themselves, or, were first author on something, or, wrote a book or something. That would just be fabulous. And this gives them the confidence. It starts them on that path. So it's wonderful to share with them the process.
Absolutely. And this will be a really big deal on college applications for students too.
Sure.
Because this is
what do I need to go to college for?
They're already authors.
Their parents gonna, they don't have to spend all that money. They're already well on their way. Self-directed learners.
Definitely. But yeah, this is definitely something that admissions officers will see as a very, very big plus, because very few other students. So this will really give students a competitive edge, and also show that they can handle the rigor of college level coursework, especially related to business.
I learned about this at the University of Michigan. They have a program, it's called UROP, University Research Opportunities Program, and they invite all the freshmen to actually participate, partner with faculty on, research and journal articles. And I did a lot of trainings for them, a lot of leadership trainings for that program. And that's where I learned about this. So I thought, well, why can't we do this in high school as well, kind of thing. And there's very few people, very few people that will do this kind of thing, for the younger students. So I think this is one of the most amazing, experiences for the FLA students.
Absolutely. I wish I would have had that experience in high school. Too bad we didn't have this back then.
Me too. Yes.
Okay,
Listen, go ahead. You want to explain this, because you're just as up on this as I am. I mean, you want me to talk about this a little bit more, or you want to do it?
Yeah, I mean, I think you can talk a bit more about this. So that was kind of like our recap of the first module of FLA. Now we'll kind of switch gears, because the second module of FLA is going to be a continuation of individual leadership. So I think we really need to define what exactly this is and how it can really benefit students.
Now, we don't want to give you the impression that if you didn't take the first module, you won't be sort of eligible for the second one. This is a standalone module. It's a little bit more advanced than the first module, but it's got a lot of the same kind of facets. So, it's always an experiment. We always put a lot of thought into this, but we're going to kind of give a slightly different version in module 2, and they will come together as a sort of complementary set. And in the future, some students will want to take both, or one or the other. But individual leadership is really about somebody, sort of a single person, sort of helping to shape their own potential and performance. So it has this self-directed kind of character to it, and it's self-directed, but it's through the facility of collaborative learning. So I motivate myself to learn, but I do it working with other people, and get the feedback. So it's kind of like the best of two worlds. And we really emphasize this idea of adaptation and I want to say aptitude. So potential to me is about aptitude. This is what makes it different than any other leadership program. We're stepping back and helping students to develop their own aptitude for leadership. I'm not teaching them the right or the correct way to lead. I'm trying to strengthen them in a lot of different ways, helping them identify their strengths and helping them actually realize their potential by really understanding how to build their adaptive characters, their aptitude, and then they can perform. Most leadership programs focus on things like, do this and you'll get this particular effect. It's about practice. This is a little bit different. It starts with one's own well-being. You have to have a sense of your own well-being to be an effective leader. You can't be an effective leader if you're struggling at, sort of the basics. You don't have the right sort of attitude, the right kind of profile, the right kind of communication. it's about making decisions and maintaining these higher levels of emotional, physical, and spiritual intelligence. We teach a lot about emotional intelligence, social intelligence, all the different kinds of intelligences, because that's a big part of this aptitude idea. This is one of the reasons we do these assessments early on as well, so they get a sense of where their aptitudes are. And then we have this active learning process. You mentioned earlier, and I don't know why this ends up in my bio, but yes, I spent 12 years as an Outward Bound instructor. People don't even know what that is, but I used to take people on expeditions into the wilderness. Sometimes we'd climb mountains, sometimes it was just backpacking, canoeing. We'd spend about a month in a wilderness area and learn leadership. And that's what to this day, it's probably every bit as important as my philosophical studies. Outward Bound taught me about fitness. It taught me about mastery of craft. It taught me about self-reliance, and it taught me about compassion. And those are the 4 pillars of Outward Bound. And I bring that kind of curriculum into this as well, teaching them about those 4 ideas through this thing they called experiential learning. Okay, so it's learned by doing. So one of the things that we mentioned, the gratitude visit, you learn about emotional intelligence by actually going and facilitating, a gratitude visit with a loved one. Individual leadership is about showcasing your talents and your accomplishments. And that's why we have them build a website, and it's a place where they can invite people to see what they've done and where their talents and accomplishments have taken them. So that's what it is.
Okay, and then how can students realistically use these leadership skills?
Well, it reminds me of what Patrick Wang said about, Patrick Wang said that he used what he did in the workshop to actually make a speech. And he wrote the speech about the topic we had discussed in one of the workshops on volunteerism. And he told me that he felt so confident talking about it because he had just finished a volunteer effort, and he wanted to talk about the value of volunteering and what it meant to him. And I got to tell you, it blew me away. I mean, it was just an amazing thing. In fact, the people in the audience said it was just an amazing speech. I think he's like 14 or something. I thought, wow, where is this kid going to be when he's 22?
Okay.
He's going to be the CEO of some company. But it was just kind of an amazing thing. I don't know if I could help with each student doing that, but it was a great example of how you take something from the program and immediately put it into practice and get a pretty positive result. The other thing that was interesting is, some of the students told me they were confident about taking on some of what we call the executive functionings of the team. And that was interesting. Not a lot of students will sort of come forward and actually want to do those kinds of things. And a lot of it has to do with holding other team members accountable, which is hard for teenagers to do, call each other out kind of thing, or remind them to do things or things like that. So there was a lot of things like that, learning management skills. They were able to demonstrate these abilities in their everyday, pursuits, which right now are mostly Zoom calls and every once in a while a personal, performance. But, we're trying to actually use the online, system that we've all been forced to sort of marry ourselves to now. And we're trying to bring the best that we can to that particular platform. And we do this by helping them, advance their own abilities, but we also try to, like I said at the end there, develop a clear sense of their own strengths and really try to identify opportunities where they can, demonstrate those strengths. And then, we talk a little bit about their, improvement areas as well. So there's a lot of things they can do right away once they do this.
Sure, sounds like a lot
You
of
doing
really.
okay on time? Because I feel sometimes like I'm going on and on.
Oh, we're doing totally fine on time, so no worries.
Okay, great.
Okay, so that was just about leadership in general. So now let's talk a little bit more about the Future Leader Academy. Some common questions. Then we can also talk a bit about the next upcoming module. Okay, so maybe some
Before you
people
get into this, let me just preface this a little bit by saying, this is the brainchild of Bill Zhao and myself. We had several different conversations over the summer, and he was so excited to do this, and I was too, and I'm just amazed that this has sort of come to fruition. And we had an amazing first series. I think this is really going to be a big program. I have so much confidence, and it's so much fun to do. And hopefully maybe we'll expand beyond sort of the online Zoom kind of format, and this becomes something a little bit bigger, and we'll do things maybe wherever in the Bay Area or somewhere, even in Illinois or Wisconsin. But we could do this and sort of take this on the road, because there's a lot of things we can do that a lot of schools cannot do, and this is what we kind of talk about here.
Absolutely.
I'm sorry. Should I continue or yeah?
Yeah.
I had a discussion with our dean. Her name is Esther Wojcicki, and she's pretty much she's very famous actually in her own right. And she has really helped me kind of clarify the vision for this Future Leadership Academy. And she told me that there's a lot of things that high schools can't do just because they don't have the resources. They don't have somebody who spent 25 years studying leadership and teaching leadership. They don't have management consultants or, people like with my profile teaching in their schools. But they also don't have the kinds of programs. They can't provide these kinds of instructional programs because they're too costly. A similar program, believe it or not, I just checked this out the other day at the University of California, Sacramento, teaching us almost exactly the same curriculum, only to executives, believe it or not, is $5,500 for 6 weeks. $5,500. So that's a lot of money, and I'm sure they're paying somebody with even more credentials than I and more experience, but that's sort of like the flavor for the cost of a executive level leadership development kind of program. We're giving them something, a kind of sneak preview. I'm actually borrowing pretty heavily from some of the MBA curriculum that I have built over the years and been exposed to, even some of that executive development stuff. It's not rocket science, and it's not too complicated for younger people to understand. I'm very good at distilling it and making it simple, so it's not too complex, and I'm not taking it all on. But I'm borrowing from sort of the best and the brightest and stealing other things, to create this program, and not by myself as well. I have Kella, and I have William, and Bill Zhao, and Esther. We have a pretty amazing team of people, and they help me to shape all the different activities and all the curriculum and everything. It's quite amazing. And then we test it out on the students. And if they don't like it, if they don't respond to it, then we got to go back to the drawing board. The bottom line is that we build confidence. We build confidence that will pay them dividends. So if you're an investment oriented person, this is a great investment for your child, for your student, because what we teach them, they will be able to take into their pursuits in the next 5 to 10 years. It will continue to sort of pay dividends, right? Accrued earnings, as we say in the business. You got to be your first best investor. So this is sort of a call out to parents. Say you want to invest in your child. You want your child to get into the best school. This is one of the complementary, things that they can do that will really set them apart. Okay. So I just wanted to emphasize the idea of the investment that this is, and not very expensive either, actually.
Absolutely. Okay, so now how exactly does FLA work?
Well, each workshop has a theme. So the first workshop in module 1 was is about thriving. So thriving is the best outcome of well-being, right? When your well-being is working, right, in a positive way, you learn to thrive. Now, if you're a leader, you help other people to thrive. And when you can do that, you're going to be a really powerful leader. Okay? Help people do their best work, help people feel their best, help people learn how to communicate clearly and be at their best. We're a very performance-oriented culture. And, from working in a business school for 20 years, I get that. And it's not all about performance, but it's very important that your students learn that in a leadership role, what you do is you inspire people to do their best, More than a coach, more than a mentor, you have to get out there and do it yourself as well. So you lead by doing, you lead by demonstrating, right? You lead by modeling. And when you model like servant leadership, you become very powerful. So it's thriving is about maintaining vitality, focus, those kinds of things. So the activities in the workshop are framed around that theme. And then, like I said, we show them a template, they can build on it. The workshop is only 2 hours, so we show them the activity template. And then what happens is they take that template and they take the activity into the world and do it. They take it beyond the workshop and they create something for themselves, a tool, an exemplar, something that they can put in their portfolio. And then that goes on their website. So it's a really powerful kind of process to help them build a kind of their own leadership legacy, their own development plan. Okay. And we want to show them how to take leadership into the world. Because we just talk about theories and, no, we want them to learn to practice themselves and really direct their own leadership learning.
Absolutely.
And do it together, in collaborative ways as well. So here's the gratitude visit. So we basically give them a script. We describe what this is and they pick someone and they tell them, what they're grateful for in knowing that person, right? What they value about the relationship. Now, what is the leadership lesson here? Well, it's about what one of my colleagues at Michigan talk about called high quality connections. If I have a friend, colleague, Jane Dutton, she's emeritus and just an amazing, professor. She was one of my mentors in my doctoral program. She just recently retired from the faculty. And she's done about 30 years of research on this about what makes leaders effective, right? And one of the main things is these things called high quality connections. So one of the things I teach students about is how to build a LinkedIn profile and how to build a network. Have them start when they're in 9th grade. Think about what their network will be by the time they get into college. But building high quality connections is really important. What is a high quality connection? Well, it has these 3 kind of, facets, but it's really short-term, intense, intimate kind of interaction. And it may evolve and devolve very quickly, but it's intense, right? And it has these 3 ideas that Jane talks about: vitality, positive regard, and mutuality. And so I fashion an activity where they can discover these 3 ideas in connection to this high quality, connection, experience. And that gives you some sort of a little example of my sort of mental process, as I pick an activity and then I embed or I marry it to some really important leadership concept that is based on the best research I can find. When I first started putting this together, I read 200 different journal articles and books. You see the library behind me. This is about 1/10 of my library. I have another room, which my wife hates, It's probably got 3,000, books and pamphlets in it. But, I spend a lot of time researching this. I read every single day. I'm reading 3 or 4 books simultaneously. I don't know what's wrong with me, but maybe it's because I've been a shut-in for a year.
I think that's a good hobby to have during
it's a good hobby.
You have worse hobbies than just reading a lot.
I spent 6 months learning Salesforce because I wanted to learn the platform, and then I found out I got to take the certification exam because I spent all this time learning about it. But I could teach them about Salesforce too. It's a really important platform for them to learn about. But I think like LinkedIn and using those kinds of things, we'll include some of that kind of thing, get them involved. And they're going to build their website, but it's also interesting for them to navigate. I had somebody request from the earlier module about LinkedIn just this morning. So.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
I'm looking forward to learning more about LinkedIn in future modules.
I'm an expert at that. I've been building a LinkedIn network now for about 8 years.
Wow.
And I even went to LinkedIn headquarters near Mountain View, actually, where Harmony Plus is located as well. But and participated in all kinds of workshops there and learned all kinds of insider stuff. It's great.
Oh, that's really, really good.
Yeah, it's fun.
So that our students will love to learn about that more.
Well, we all have to learn platforms, because platforms are the sort of nature of what business is moving towards. So if you don't know LinkedIn and you don't know, things like Salesforce, you got to learn. I mean, Salesforce started out as just a sort of glorified Excel spreadsheet, but now it's a really powerful tool. And they have this self-learning, it's called Trailhead. And I introduce the students to it and they can learn on their own. It's really fun because it's gamified and it's really fun. And it's sort of a badge system and a credential system. It's great. I'm already a Trailhead Ranger, which is like the highest level.
Nice.
Salesforce is going to recruit me if I keep talking like this, but okay.
Add that to your resume.
Yeah. I don't really want to work there, but I'd rather do this.
Great. Okay, so what exactly will students learn about in this online program?
Well, let me just depart from this slide a little bit, because the second module, the advanced module, is really about things like decisions. How do you make good decisions? And so give them a template for, just considering their sort of we talk about meta decisions, talking about how decisions are made. So decision making is a really important, leadership skill. How to influence people. So we talk about, your social skills and your social intelligence. And then a lot of it is about emotional intelligence. And, this is one of the so important things that students don't really get a lot of, education about, certainly in high school. I don't know if is there a course they can take on emotional intelligence in a conventional school? No.
I have never heard of one, no.
No, it doesn't exist. But, in the last 20 years, there's been so much work sort of in psychology and other places, Daniel Goleman and Richard Boyakis at Case Western, the work that they've done has just been phenomenal. And this all goes back to Howard Gardner at Harvard's famous work, on multiple intelligences. And so we have all these like different ways to think about intelligence. And it really helps us in the leadership space to kind of break down different kinds of skill sets, that we can teach and have students learn about that can improve the way they lead, but also the way they follow. Notice that in the model, and you probably don't have forgotten this already, but courageous following we talk about, and courageous following is a lot about emotional intelligence. It's just a sort of subversive way to illustrate it. Okay, so those are the kinds of things that we're going to talk about. We're all in organizations. So in some ways, organizational behavior is going to sneak its way into leadership. It's always, when we renamed our department, it used to be called the, Department of Organizational Behavior. Now, across the country, those organizational behavior departments in colleges and universities that were dominated by psychologists now it's called management and leadership, or management and organization. So, or leadership in organization kind of thing. So it's really, changed the way we think about, social science, which is really what we're teaching them, is sort of the best of what social science can contribute. Now, this is different than, teaching physics or chemistry, and that's all important natural science type stuff. But remember, a well-rounded education is natural science, social science, and humanities, And so you got to have all three if you want to go to Yale or you want to go to MIT. Okay.
I want to go to Stanford. That's where I went.
All right.
Or Michigan, like you.
Or Michigan.
Okay.
Michigan is actually famous for social science. It's one of the sort of clarion institutions that really produces quite a bit, probably the most research in social science of any other institution. So, students will learn from the latest research. I'm still, that's one thing about being a faculty at a place like Michigan. You got to keep up. It's a struggle to, to assimilate all the possibilities. But I have a pretty good, mechanism, and I have a certain amount of, themes that regularly visit, and I've got a lot of resources. So I'm really fortunate in that way. We're going to talk about sensible decisions, dealing with complexity, which is really important, and this concept of noise now, because we have all this noise in the system. So there's some things about, I want to say, systems theory that will introduce the students, building social relationships of value, like the high quality connection, and how to influence others, by changing how they do things. You change other people by changing yourself. You change yourself and model it, and people, if they're attracted, if you become a positive attractor, people will follow you.
Certainly.
So it's about showcase, and then I talk a little bit about platforms there at the bottom. We use Slack, we use LinkedIn, we use Google Docs, and all this, the students they already know how to use all these things, but we can teach them. I'm always trying to stay just a little bit ahead of them, and it's really tricky to do and difficult sometimes, but I can navigate platforms with the best of them. Okay, so yeah.
Nice.
So wow,
Okay, so just kind of an overview of a few other things, and I see that we just have a few minutes left.
I was going to say we're trying to anticipate some of the questions, I guess, but maybe we should open up. How many minutes do we have?
I think we can just go through the next few slides.
Okay, you got a couple minutes to go through. So we're anticipating some of the general questions, but hopefully we'll have time, we can answer some specific questions from the audience. I hope you're still with me. We've been talking for quite a long time. We strive to provide students with empowerment and engaging education. That's a really important kind of thing, is to really engage them from their perspective. Even though what I've, shown you is a lot of, our conceptualization, we really try very difficult to reach the students with everything we do, because the ultimate outcome is to empower them. Education doesn't work if it doesn't empower the student. I can talk and talk and talk and do whatever, but if it doesn't, if it's not embedded in the student's sort of psyche, I'm just wasting my time talking to myself or talking to Calla, right? The idea is to give them a toolbox. It's like this. I want to teach them to be blacksmiths, okay? You know what a blacksmith does? A blacksmith is a person that, molds metal, right? Pounds metal into horseshoes and things like that. But you know what a blacksmith does that other artisans don't do? They make their own tools. They make their own tools. They make their own hammers, anvils, chisels, tongs out of the metal, right? And that's what the philosophy of the FLA is, the idea, let's give the students their own toolbox to make. And so everything is kind of focused on that toolbox of their own making, because if they make it themselves, they're going to own it. They're going to use it, right? And it's going to influence their development in a powerful way. So I want to give them a chance, an opportunity to pick what they want to put together. It's kind of like selecting the tools and placing them in their toolbox. And that's what their website helps them to do, is place their tools. So they're going to co-author journal article. They're going to do this. And then at the bottom there, the outstanding students will receive a letter of recommendation that they can also use for their application. I try to give, depending on sort of a proportion of how many students I've had. If I have 5, I'm going to give 2. If I have 20, I'm going to give 4 students letters. And it's going to be a customized letter. I'm going to sign it. It's going to be on letterhead, and it's going to be something they can use for their future applications or their future career opportunities. And it's a great thing to have, a really powerful reward, because we can't really give them a credential, and we don't have a badge system. So not yet. So we have to give them something that they can actually use in the world that they're in.
Certainly. Well, that's all very useful. So I think that we can just go through the next slides pretty quickly, just because we are pretty much over time now. So
Okay.
just to clarify the FLA module system, okay, so we have 6 modules within the Future Leader Academy, and each one has 6 workshops for a total of 36 workshops. You can sign up for each module individually. We like to say it's like the sushi bar concept, right? You can choose which modules you want to do. They do not need to be done consecutively. Okay, so start anywhere. Okay, so the module themes, the first module we had was Discovering the Leader in You. The next one we're doing is the Advanced Individual Leadership series, which I will share a little more information with you in just a moment, the details for that. So we already talked about really what we're going to be learning in there. Then ones to look forward to, like this summer and next fall, will be Collective Leadership, the Wisdom of Teams, Organizations as Teams, Organizations as Cultures, and then big picture ideas, social responsibility and sustainability. So stay tuned for the latter 4.
So just a real quick note on those ideas. They're not, they're not, how do I say, they're umbrella concepts. So collective leadership, wisdom of teams, it's about team dynamics. Organization as teams, it's about project-based learning with teams. If they learn how to do these things with teams and they have sort of an advanced knowledge, they'll be such powerful players when they get to college. Learning how to manage a project, learning how to work on a team, right? Learning about what culture is, and not just in organizations, but what culture is in sort of all of its, influence. And then this idea of social responsibility, they're going to get in, corporate social responsibility, philanthropy, and sustainability, because those are things that you can shape your whole college education around these sort of big ideas. I want to give them a real, attractive illustration or exposure to these big, theme ideas.
Sure, looking forward to all those different modules. Okay, and then just some of the logistics for the next module, the Advanced Individual Leadership series. So the tentative time now is Saturdays, starting February 27th, and then 5:30 to 7:30 p.m. Pacific. So kind of around this time, actually. Okay, and then here's our module plan. So we have 6 different workshops. So Matt, would you like to say any more about those?
We know your students have a pretty full calendar with their own work, and their sort of conventional education. They're pretty much fully engaged during the week, and they have homework and everything. We want this to be a kind of a fun, a little bit of a diversion, because it's different. And, we're going to spend a lot of energy and a lot of focus on trying to develop, their interests within this program. Because obviously, we don't want to coerce students to take this, and this is supplemental, and parents are paying extra for this. So we really want to emphasize the high quality of it, the dividends and the outcomes that they're going to enjoy, and really the fun and the different sort of approach that they're going to be exposed to. This will really help them, because they'll come to expect this kind of learning when they're in a top-notch college, and they'll most likely be exposed to something that they'll be familiar with. It won't be so much of a shock when they do go to Stanford. This is much different than high school. Yeah, you're not spoon-fed. That's one thing. And you're going to be challenged, and you're going to, but that's the whole idea, is to give them that confidence. So when they confront something they don't quite understand fully, yet they're able to navigate that confusion. They're able to navigate that uncertainty. That's really powerful.
Absolutely. Okay, so then just some key benefits of the Future Leader Academy. We already talked about all of these things, but just a quick summary. So a really cool opportunity is you get to co-author an article about leadership. Even ninth graders in high school have that opportunity, which is amazing. Learn from someone from a top business school in America, so the University of Michigan. Complete the Harmony Plus leadership portfolio that can be shared with college admissions officers. And participate in MBA level activities that are specifically tailored for high school students. Also, you have the chance to receive a recommendation letter, which is also super helpful in those college applications and for internships and jobs. Of course, gaining those leadership skills that can be applied in many different areas and situations, and also a certificate of completion. Although we can't give very, very official credentials, at least you can have something to add to your website as well as your resume and LinkedIn. Okay, so then just the portfolio once again. So students have things like this, very helpful. Okay, and then there is an application for the Future Leader Academy. Okay, don't worry, it's not too long. It's not like a college application, but feel free to scan the QR code there if you are interested, and then fill out the form. We just like to know a little bit about, why you're interested in this Leadership Academy and what you really hope to gain from it. Okay. So feel free to scan that. If you still have a lot of questions, feel free to contact Harmony Plus. Okay, there's the email, phone, WeChat, scan the QR code. Okay, are there any questions at this point? I know we're a bit over time, but if anyone has a burning question.
It's a lot to take in the 55 minutes. You probably feel like you've been through a college class.
Definitely.
I hope I didn't put any of you to sleep, but
it's all very informative. Well, okay, if there are no questions at this point, since we are already over time, then I will probably wrap this up. So thanks to everyone.